Well, thanks everybody for joining this week. And with that, I will turn it over to Coach Clawson to give an opening statement, and then we'll open it up for questions.
All right. Hey, good to see everybody again, and thanks for being with us. And, just wanted to recap Syracuse, another good effort, efficient on offense. The defense, I think, continues to improve every week. Probably the one point in the game I was a little disappointed with the special teams. That punt return really cost us. We had another punt that we blew the protection that could have been blocked. It was the one, there was a high snap, and Ivan Moore made a great play to go up and get it, but we cut a guy loose on that, and we had a high snap. So we were extremely fortunate we didn't have the punt blocked. And so now we head into the bye week at 4-2. A lot of our goals are still intact. We need a little bit of help, but we just got to take care of business. I think this week it's really important that we recharge the batteries. We need to get some guys back, especially on defense at safety, between Luke Masterson, Nasir Greer, Kobe Davis, Zion Keith. If we could get 2 or 3 of those guys back, that would really help us. And we certainly think there's a chance that we could get some of them back by North Carolina. So again, I think it's a week that we refresh, regroup, try to get healthy, make some improvements, and then get ready for the stretch run. But we're excited about how we're playing. I think sometimes when you play like this, you don't want to take a break. But I do think because some of the injuries that are starting to pile up a little bit on defense, that I think it's at a good time to let us kind of recharge a little bit. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Dave, what does the schedule look like for you guys? You've already kind of answered a couple of my questions in terms of what you're hoping to accomplish, and if you'd rather have a bye week this week or whether you'd prefer to just motor through with the momentum you have. But what does the schedule look like for you guys?
We gave the players Sunday off. We had them lift today. We will give them tomorrow off for the election. That we had 100% of our players register to vote. I think most of them already voted by ballot, but a couple of the North Carolina guys hopefully will get out tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be close to 100%. I'm even giving our staff tomorrow morning off so that they can vote. And I just said that, we're asking our players to be engaged and we can't be hypocrites. So they're off till noon tomorrow so they can get to, their election polling place and make sure they get their votes in and counted. And then we'll meet with them Wednesday. We'll practice Wednesday, but some of our players who have high reps will just lift. And we did this the last bye week, and this gave us a chance to give Kalen Carson a bunch of reps and gave us a chance to get Nick Anderson a bunch of reps. And there's another wave of players like that that I think are talented that we just need to get them more reps. So if we get banged up at receiver, Keyshawn Williams is ready to go, or Jamal Banks is ready to go. If we get banged up at tight end, we got to get Cameron Height ready to go. If we get banged up at offensive tackle, Devontae Gordon's got to be ready to go. At linebacker, Jalen Hudson. So I'd say there's like 8 to 10 players that could have a chance to be our next Nick Anderson or Kalen Carson if we get banged up at their position, who haven't gotten a lot of reps because we've been healthy. And so we're going to really try to feed those guys reps on Wednesday and Thursday and continue their development.
I know it's easier for you because you guys have the bye week, but do you have any thoughts about the mandatory Tuesday off for election day, across the country?
I think the principle of it is really good. I'm certainly in favor of finding a way to let the players vote. I'm glad we have a bye week, just because at Wake Forest, if you don't practice, we give our players Monday off and practice Tuesday. And so the academic responsibilities that our players have on Monday, this is when our players who want to be pre-med take their labs, or the engineers take their lab courses. And so all those classes are Monday. So again, we would have figured it out and we would have made it work. But when you're at a place that has live classes and is very academic, it's really hard for us to find 3-hour windows and let our players major in anything they want to major in. We don't ever restrict our players from what their major is here. And for us, if we would have had to make practice Monday instead of Tuesday, although it seems like a very minor thing with their academic schedule, that would have really been challenging. So again, I think the initiative is great. I'm certainly for it. The application of it at some schools, I'm sure, is difficult. And, most of our players don't live in North Carolina, so most of them had already voted. But I think emphasizing the importance of it by giving them a day off, I'm certainly in favor of it.
Dave, you mentioned after the game how you're kind of impressed about how the whole team is everybody's kind of contributing. You're not leaning on your defense. You're not leaning on your offense. You're not leaning on your special teams. Do people not maybe understand how hard that is to do every year to get kind of everybody on the same page like that?
Yeah, and I think, part of it, John, is just we've kind of been in waves here. When we first got here, we were a lot better on defense than offense. And so we basically played the basketball equivalent of a stall. We would snap the ball with 1 second left. We would try to play low scoring games. We just didn't think we had the ability to get in shootouts and do that. And then a bunch of our better defensive guys graduated and we got older on offense. And then we played really fast and got in shootouts. And I think last year and this year were the first 2 years that we kind of felt, hey, we don't have to particularly play one way to win, that we can feel that out within the course of a game. And, clearly the NC State game became a shootout, whereas Virginia and Virginia Tech, our ability to run the ball, and especially in the Syracuse game, when we got that lead, if our only goal was to score 50 points, we would have kept playing fast and kept throwing the ball. But our ability to run the ball and snap the ball with 5 seconds left and take away possessions and to be able to play keep away, to me, shows a lot of flexibility on offense, that here's a high tempo offense that slowed it down and finished long drives and took time off the clock. And we could play that way because of the way our defense was playing. And so instead of it being a season formula, it almost becomes a feel for the game. And, that explosion that we had in the third quarter with the score to Jaquari, the pick six, and then the long drive that ended in a score really allowed us to sit on the ball the whole fourth quarter. So yeah, that's hard to do. It is, but I'm proud of our team, and I think it shows unselfishness among our staff that we don't care how we win. We're willing to adjust and play differently, and we're more concerned with winning than any stats.
Coach, kind of piggybacking off that, how happy are you with the ability to win different ways and the versatility of this team?
Well, the thing I'm probably most proud about our team right now is I think we're showing a lot of resilience and grit, especially after those first 2 games. There were a lot of questions about the defense, and, for those guys to, believe in the staff and believe in the system and say, we've got a problem, we have to fix it, and not just put our hands in the air and say it's 2020, we're doomed. To me is very encouraging. So I think it tells you a lot about our players, our staff, and the willingness of our offense to play a different way to support our defense. That's what you want. You want, the offense to play in a way that helps the defense to play in a way, and getting all those turnovers and getting a short field. And, we've scored 3 defensive touchdowns and a special teams touchdown this year. So we don't care how we score. And so I just think right now the units are complementing each other. In the one time we didn't, it cost us. On offense, we didn't convert a 3rd and 1. We had not a great punt with really poor coverage, and then we gave up a big play. And they were right back in the football game because of that. That was an example of not playing complementary football.
Dave, did you think you guys would be the 2nd highest scoring team in the ACC halfway through the season?
Oh, I didn't even know we were.
I think right behind Clemson.
So that's good. I didn't even realize we were. I haven't, I'm just glad we've got more wins than losses right now. So, again, if you said after we started 0-2, hey, we'll be 4-2 at the break. I certainly liked the way we did a lot of things in the month of October.
Dave, now that you've had a chance to kind of look over the tape, how would you evaluate the play by the linebackers and in the defensive backs on Saturday?
I thought that was, in the back end, one of the best games we've played here. Jaquez Williams was very active. He timed up a blitz and hit it perfectly on a big 3rd down. Ryan Smenda had his most productive game of the year. DJ Taylor did some good things. Chase Monroe really hit a blitz and fit the runs really well. Overall, I thought it was the best game that we played at linebacker. And I thought our corners played really well. And Trey Rucker, I thought, had a good game. Nick Anderson continues to play well. That game, if we lost the game, it was going to be because of what Syracuse could do to us on the perimeter. And the fact that we never let that get started, the amount of open field tackles we made in space. Syracuse throws those 1-step hitches and those smoke screens, and they bank on the fact that their receiver is going to make your corner miss. And we made way more of those tackles than we ever have against those guys. So Kalen, Gavin, Jasir, Trey, Nick, all those guys did a nice job in space.
Dave, with all those guys contributing and having that flexibility, what does that give you?
Well, it gives us depth. It helps our special teams. And that's where, if we can start getting some of these other guys back, it even puts us in a better position.
You have an update yet on Gavin Holmes and Jaquez Williams?
We're probably going to find out a little bit more tomorrow. We're hoping we'll have Jaquez back for North Carolina, and Gavin, he might be a little bit longer, but we'll get more of an official word tomorrow. So I'm a little bit more optimistic on Jaquez than I am Gavin right now.
Dave, have you ever had 3 freshman DBs come in and make such an immediate impact as Gavin, Kalen, and Nick have?
Not in one. So last time I played this many freshman DBs was 1999 at Fordham University, and that didn't turn out so well that year. Turned out really well in 4 years when they were seniors. We won a championship with the same guys at Rowan 11, but it helps when you got a veteran like Jasir back there. It helps when you have a veteran like Trey Red. AJ Williams is playing good football. Luke Masterson and Nasir Greer have been really good leaders in the room. Those guys can kind of do their job and not have to necessarily lead the whole thing. And the fact that we're playing better on the D line, but those guys are doing a heck of a job for us. And we started all 3 of them on Saturday. So I'm really impressed with them, and you just hope they can sustain it. That's always the challenge as a freshman, is you get into the second half of the season in November. You just want to keep them fresh, and that's one of the reasons we're giving our guys a few extra days off this week.
Yeah, if you had told March, Dave Clawson, that Kalen Carson and Nick Anderson were getting the most reps for you on the defensive side of the ball, what do you think you would have expected your record to be right now?
Well, I'd probably be in quarantine, so. I mean, I really, we knew we were going to have some freshmen play for us this year, but we thought they would be in backup roles, not starting roles, just with losing, Asang and Amari. And we didn't know if we were going to have Nasir back, and it turns out we did. Now we don't. But we were really hoping one or two of the freshmen would be able to play, probably more so at corner than safety.
Dave, in some respect, do the COVID rules kind of help you without having to redshirt guys after 4 games? I mean, that made you mentioned it earlier that it made it a little easier for you to see what these freshmen could do. Yeah,
and because, John, we've been able to get these guys on special teams before. Nick Anderson was on special teams for us, and Keyshawn Williams and Kalen Carson, and this was our way of letting them play. And because they were on kickoff team and punt return team, and they were getting some playing time, now when they had to play and start, they didn't go from not playing at all to starting. And we probably never would have used them on 1 or 2 special teams units because we would have tried to redshirt them. So they would have gone from 0 to 100 miles an hour. And I always think special teams is a way of getting those guys on the playing field first to get a feel for the speed of the game. And, Keyshawn Williams, if he has to play, will be more prepared to play, because right now, I mean, he's on kickoff, he's on punt return, he's on kickoff return. And so he's playing 15, 20 snaps a game. And so if that role grows, again, he's not going from 0 plays to 50 plays.
Hey, Dave, I'm curious to ask about the offensive line. A couple different avenues to go. Number one is the past few years, you've had clear pro prospects in Phil and Justin. And I'm curious, who would you consider the marquee guys in your O-line right now? And the second part of that is, how do you feel the O-line has played as a group? I feel like it's kind of gone a little unsung in this successful October that you guys have had.
It certainly doesn't go unsung by us. I think those guys are ahead of schedule. I mean, I probably, going into the season, certainly the national line was we're in trouble at quarterback. And I said, I felt great about where we were at quarterback because I saw these guys in practice every day. I was most concerned with the secondary, corner, and the O-line. And I think both those positions have become positions of strength. The O-line's younger. Obviously, Jake Benzinger, Nate Gillum, Justin Haran, those guys graduated. Those guys were good players. I think Zach Tom is an all-ACC player. He's playing really well. Both guards, Loic and Sean, I think have improved from a year ago. Javiante Nash, for a first-year starter, is playing really well, and the guy that just gets better every single week is Michael Juergens. So, I'm certainly Zach is the most proven player, and he's playing at a really high level. If he's not all ACC, that would be ridiculous. It really would be if he's outstanding. But those other guys are all playing well too. So that unit, Nick Tabak has done a great job of working with those guys, and their development has been critical.
Couldn't they have come up with a better nickname though than Beef Brothers? I mean, that's
Beef Boys.
Beef Boys, yeah. That's
yeah. I don't know if I was a cow around those guys, I'd be a little bit nervous. I think those guys can eat quantities of food.
Dave, you've talked about wanting to be an ascending team this season on several occasions. Given that the progression since that first bye week that was unexpected, when Notre Dame had to push the game back, this has to have been some of your most fun football to coach and work through, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're so worried and concerned week to week, and even when you're winning, you see the problems. And I think as a coach, there's always that that level of anxiety that you want to get it fixed. You want to get it fixed, and you fix this, and then there's another leak in the hose, and you want to fix that. I don't know if it's certainly been rewarding to see some of the improvements we've made. And on the other hand, when you look at the schedule that we still have and some of the teams we've got to play, in my mind, to win those games and be competitive in those games, we still got to get better and make improvements. So we're better than we were a month ago. But coming up, I mean, we have 3 teams that were ranked last week in the top 20. And, so there's a lot of good teams we still got to play, and we got to get better. If we just stay at this level, we're not going to end up where we want to. So, but with where we are after playing 3 ACC games, I kind of feel what we need in this bye week is a little bit different than what we needed in the previous bye week.
I know there's a lot of football left and there's a lot of improvements you want to make. And, the season could go a vast number of ways, but what have you seen in terms of Paul Williams and what he's brought to your program, coaching the corners? Well,
he's just a very experienced, very knowledgeable cornerbacks coach. He knows his stuff. And I find him to be very demanding with the players. He's got very high standards for him. And yet at the same time, I think they find him very approachable. So I think getting him at corners, which was really his specialty, and getting Ryan Crawford more involved with our special teams, which is really his specialty, both those guys have done a really good job for us. So I think it's been a double bump. I think because of Ryan focusing more on special teams, I think that's really helped our special teams, and allowing Paul to just do the corners. And that's where his experience is. And he's coached a lot of good corners over the years. And, I think both of those moves have helped our football team.
Coach, you touched on the difference in this bye week versus the one in the past, trying to get more guys reps, getting guys healthy. What else are you trying to focus on during this bye week?
I just think it's letting the guys recharge the batteries. Eddie, this season is different than any other season. And even though you say, well, geez, it's the end of October and you've only played 6 games, our players have been at it since early July. No breaks. You can't go home. No social life. And I just think they need to charge the batteries a little bit. I think, again, I wish we were still playing. We're playing well. But at the other hand, those 3 games were very, very intense preparation games for us. And, with where we are banged up, we were probably due for a letdown. And if we can kind of collect ourselves and get healthy, we've got some huge games coming up.
Dave, you mentioned all the practicing since July and everything on campus. I know you don't want to talk about how you've only had 1 turnover, but in some ways, is that maybe one of the reasons you guys have had so many practices? That maybe, that's helped here these first through 6 games?
I mean, I just felt this year with COVID, without spring football, there was a chance that football could get sloppy. And, before you can win games, you got to make sure you don't lose them. And we always emphasize that here, and we always emphasize this. In some years, it works out better than others. So, again, anytime that I champion that or pound my chest on that, it quickly reverses. So I'm not going there. I'm glad we're doing a good job taking care of the football, but we have to continue to do that. Last year we did a great job of it. And then the second half of the season, we didn't. We turned it over last year against Syracuse, last year against Virginia Tech, and in the bowl game. So that's one of those habits And one of those things, the second you think, hey, we've arrived with it, it can reverse on you in a heartbeat.
Dave,
In that light,
along those lines, it seems like Sam has all but eliminated the play where he tries to do too much and makes something worse. What's gone into that since his freshman year when it seemed like he'd have a couple of those a game?
I mean, I think he's just matured and learned that, you know, when you're not winning a play, minimize the loss. You know, we're not going to be perfect in protection. We may miss a blitz. You know, don't turn the negative into a game-changing losing play. I mean, you remember the first pick he threw at Tulane. He was about to fall down and he just kind of whipped the ball. And I'm not telling you that plays like that don't happen in practice, but they happen a lot less. And, you know, I think he got to witness last year how well we played when we didn't turn it over. You know, and again, before the quarterback can win you the game, he's got to not lose it. And yet at the same time, you can't play so cautious at that position that you can't play scared. You got to play aggressive and you got to fit the ball in the tight spaces. But I think he's developed good habits and he's got to continue to do so.
I was going to kind of pick up on that and ask you to characterize his decision-making so far this season.
I mean, for the most part, it's been good. It's not been perfect. I mean, we're always trying to play that perfect game, knowing that we never will. But he's done a really good job. He's played at a high level, and he's run the ball when he had to run it. I mean, certainly the run for a touchdown against Virginia Tech, the third down conversion he made against Virginia with his feet, those are plays that he never made in 2018. And, you know, even the other day, the first third down that he just shuffled the ball to Christian. I mean, that, you know, to realize the down and distance and we didn't have to force the ball. Let's not throw the ball against our body. And hey, it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. He got scrambled. He knew where Christian was. He just kind of dumped it to him. And that was a big play. You know, that kept a drive alive. And right away we go up 3-0.
Hey, Dave, you made an offhand remark after the game on Saturday that you didn't have to go to for a run because you had already gotten 31,000 steps. Is 31,000 steps a typical game day for you?
I mean, I can research it, but I got 37,000 the week before. So it's
how many miles is that?
about 17. So they get sometimes at night I'll cramp up a little bit, but it's just now I usually go for a walk or a run the morning of a game. But Saturday, October 31st, 36,869 steps.
Is there any correlation in how angry you are at an official over the course of a game with how many steps you have that game?
I was really well behaved on Saturday. I didn't raise my voice once. You know, it's one of those things I do it sometimes and then I regret it and I feel bad and guilty about it. And usually the next week I'm usually pretty good. So.
You walk more when you're winning or when you're losing?
Well, I'm just always going back with the team and the communication and sometimes, you know, communicating with the special teams coach about, hey, are we going to, you know, is this the time we should go for the block or the return? And, you know, you're always trying to engage the players and ask them what they're seeing. And, you know, I mean, all those steps aren't during the game. Again, I still, you know, usually like to go for a walk or a run before the game, just as a way to burn off some of the anxiety. But I probably get a few more steps. The less I agree with the officiating. So.
Thanks for getting that noon game too with Carolina. Good work on that one.
Yeah. We as coaches, we like those games. So it's, I mean, after the game, I've got to have the whole film watched by 10 o'clock the next morning. So if you play at noon, you're done by 4, I usually watch the offense on the bus ride back, and then I'll go home and watch the defense. You play at 8 o'clock at night, and you get home at midnight, and you're up till whenever, or getting up whenever to watch the film. So, I know the fans like them later, but as coaches, we like them early.
Do you watch the all 22 when you watch the film?
I watch the sideline and the end zone of every play. So it usually takes me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get through each side of the ball. So start doing the math. If you get home at midnight and you're back in by 10, doesn't leave a lot of time to sleep.
How many pages of notes?
Well, I just make notes on the call sheet. So as soon as the game's over, I get the stat sheet, the defensive call sheet, and the offensive call sheet. And I'll make notes as I watch the film on the call sheet. So it's usually, the offense is, usually about 5 sheets, and the defense is usually about 10.
Anything else, guys? All right.
Thanks, Dave.